Scene 4. Karna and Arjuna face off. So after seeing how Dushashan had just been mercilessly slaughtered, Karna's mouth fell open. His weapons dropped to his side, and he gazed at Bhima with undisguised utmost fear. Covered in blood and roaring, Bhimasena seemed like a monstrous Rakshasa. Surely Bhima must have been possessed by some evil spirit of inestimable power. And seeing Karna's terrified expression, Shalya advised Karna, "Come now, O hero, do not be depressed, for this is the way of war. Death and destruction are its ever-present features. Do not be afraid. Duryodhana is grieving to see the death of Dushashan and his other brothers, while the rest of the Kauravas are fleeing. Duryodhana has given you the responsibility for this war. Now exert yourself and bear the burden to the best of your ability." Seeing his father shaken and holding back in battle, Karna's son Vrishasena blew his kanchal and confronted Arjuna. Vrishasena fired a powerful volley of barbed arrows covering both Arjuna and Krishna. Fighting valiantly, Vrishasena overpowered Nakula, who had come to support Vijay. Vrishasena smashed Nakula's chariot, and so Bhima angrily shouted out to Arjuna, "I should kill this one immediately, but I will leave him for you. Dispatch him at once." And as Karna looked on, Arjuna attacked Vrishasena. Blazing shafts sped towards the prince like hissing snakes breathing fire. 4 of those shafts slew Vrishasena's horses, while another dislodged his chariot driver, throwing him to the ground. And as Vrishasena tried to jump clear from his immobilized chariot, Dhananjay sped a crescent-headed shaft at Vrishasena, severing his head. The prince fell to the ground like a tree felled by lightning. Karna cried out in agony. Grasping hold of his bow, Karna advanced towards Bibhatsu, who turned to meet him. The lustrous golden chariots of the 2 heroes, covered in tiger skins, looked like 2 sun planets meeting. And like Indra encountering Bali Maharaj, they approached one another for combat, while both armies looked on in awe and amazement. And as the 2 warriors shot their arrows at each other, the other warriors roared with excitement, some praising Arjuna and others Karna. Both armies struck up martial music from the thousands of drums and trumpets. Conch sounded, and the battlefield was now filled with a deafening cacophony and clamor. Meanwhile, from above, the celestials looked down from the canopy of the sky. Seeing the 2 godlike heroes raising their weapons and roaring, the celestials could not decide which of them would emerge victorious. They were yet reminded of an ancient battle between Parashuram and Kartavirya Arjuna. The Siddhas and Charanas then sounded their horns, showering flowers upon the combatants. Indradev blessed his son Kiriti for victory, while Suryadev shone down upon Karna, wishing him well. As they closed in on each other, the troops of both armies came to offer their support. Drishtadyumna, along with the Pandava forces, then surrounded Arjuna, while Duryodhana backed up Karna with the Kauravas. A fierce battle raged between the soldiers surrounding the two warriors, who circled one another, firing their first salvo of firearms. Suddenly, Hanuman leaped from Arjuna's flag banner, flying across to Karna's banner, which was emblazoned with the jeweled elephant's rope, resembling the noose of Yamaraj. The enraged monkey tore at the rope with his nails and teeth, screaming fearfully all the while. The horses of both fighters reared and neighed angrily. Krishna threw wrathful glances at Shalya, who returned them in a similar manner. Karna then said, "O my friend Shalya, the moment has arrived. Tell me truthfully now, what will you do if I am slain by Partha?" "O Karna, I will rush at Keshava and Dhananjay. For what greater end can there be for a Kshatriya other than death at the edge of weapons?" Arjuna asked Krishna the very same question. "O Dhananjay, the sun may fall from the sky, the earth may shatter into 1,000 fragments, fire may become cold, but Karna will never slay you. But if it should happen that you are slain, know for sure that the end of the world is near. Both Karna and Shalya will be sent to the abode of Yamaraj, along with the entire host of Kshatriyas. Oh, my dear Janardhan, have no fear, for Karna and Shalya are no match for me. As an elephant in the forest tears apart a tree, so I will crush Karna, his chariot, banners, horses, armor, bows, and arrows. O Madhav, soon Karna's wives will be widows. Surely they must have dreamt of impending evil last night. I cannot check my rage when I think of the cruel evil acts Karna committed against us, especially how he abused Draupadi and the harsh language he used at that time. Today, I will console Abhimanyu's mother, Subhadra, by repaying Abhimanyu's enemies in their own coin. Yes, my dear Keshava, you too will be able to comfort Draupadi, from whose eyes fall large tears, remembering as she does the many woes she has suffered at the hands of the evil Kauravas.
Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahi Mam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Rakshama.
Scene 5. Ashwatthama appeals to Duryodhana to end the war. Both Arjuna and Karna then released shafts in volume. The sky was covered with flying arrows, creating a dark shadow over the battlefield. The two warriors countered each other's attacks, just like the east and west winds struggling with one another. And as they struck down their opponents' arrows, they seemed like the sun and moon emerging from out of the clouds. Surrounded by their troops, they resembled Indra and Bali, surrounded by the gods and the Asura demons. Their golden bows, constantly drawn to a circle, looked like the Karna of the sun, while their arrows resembled sunbeams. Bent upon each other's destruction, they stood like two sun planets risen for the destruction of the universe at the end of the Yuga. And as they fought, simultaneously they slew thousands of troops, elephants, and horses. The warriors contended together as the battle raged between the foremost heroes from both sides. Duryodhana, Kripa Acharya, Shakuni, and Ashvatthama rained down arrows on Vijay, trying to distract Arjuna in order to give Karna an advantage. But Bibhatsu dexterously cut all their shafts and beat them back with his own arrows. Now forced to a distance by the searing arrows of Sabyasachi, Duryodhana and Ashvatthama came together to discuss strategy. But, still deeply affected by the death of his father, Drona, and the words of Vyasadeva, Ashvatthama climbed onto Duryodhana's chariot and spoke confidentially.
O king, please be pacified. There is no need to prolong this war. Enough men have died. Bhishma lies prostrate on the battlefield, and your own preceptor, my father, has been slain. Now, make peace with Yudhishthira. He always seeks the welfare of all beings. His brothers will accept his order. And with the Pandavas as your allies, what can you not attain? But to be honest with you, how can anyone overpower Jishnu? So what use is there in fighting Arjuna?
Ashvatthama had been watching Karna and Arjuna fight. Blazing arrows shot from the Gandiva bow of Sabyasachi, lighting up the late afternoon sky. Falguna's chariot moved swiftly from side to side, thus baffling Karna's attacks. And meanwhile, Krishna stood with the reins of the horses in his hands, his face covered with perspiration. And as Keshava shouted out commands to the horses, he expertly maneuvered the chariot.
O king, in my view, we should stop this war. Friendship with the Pandavas will surely be in your best interest. Stop this fight and let the remaining kings return to their homes. O monarch, I speak only as your friend and well-wisher. If you want, I can dissuade Karna from the battle. Simply order me.
Duryodhana thought for a while without replying. Finally, he shook his head.
O friend, you have had your say, and I have considered your words. Now hear my thoughts on the matter. Even as the might of a storm is checked by Mount Meru, so also Arjuna's prowess will be checked by Karna. Let the fighting continue. The Pandavas will never place confidence in me after all the ills I have done to them. You should not dissuade Karna. Arjuna is becoming tired from his long day of fighting, and he will soon be overcome. O hero, go forward and fight our enemies. I am depending upon you as much as I am depending upon Karna.
Ashvatthama sighed. Slowly, he returned to his own chariot and rode back into the battle. Duryodhana was obviously grief-stricken over the deaths of his brothers. Why, he could hardly raise his weapons. He watched as Karna and Arjuna waged a most fearful fight. It was so terrible that no other warrior could go even near them. Anyone coming within the range of their arrows was instantly slain. Both men were lacerated by the other's shafts, and blood flowed freely from their many wounds. Meanwhile, Krishna and Shalya, with arrows protruding from their bodies, expertly worked their horses and wheeled the chariots back and forth.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Scene 6. Arjuna fights Karna, Part 1. The Pandava troops then shouted out to Arjuna, "Kill Karna at once, and dash any hope of Duryodhana for the empire." And on the other side, the Kauravas encouraged Karna, "Quickly slay Arjuna, and send the Pandavas back to the wilderness once and for all." Smiling and licking his lips, Arjuna sent hosts of arrows with various points. Some were shaped like half-moons, some shaped like the ears of a boar, and some like the teeth of a calf. But Karna responded with similar numbers of crescent-headed and razor-headed shafts, cutting down Arjuna's arrows. Suddenly invoking a powerful celestial weapon, Arjuna fired a shaft so brilliant that it lit up the sky in all directions. The heat from the missile ignited the dresses and chariots of the warriors nearby. It flew with a crackling sound, resembling a forest of bamboos on fire. Undaunted, Karna at once released a Varuna weapon, which immediately quenched Arjuna's missile. Huge clouds then appeared in the sky, sending torrents of rain, extinguishing the fire Arjuna had created. Arjuna applauded Karna and sent another celestial weapon against him, this one dispersing the clouds. Vijay then disappeared from Karna's view and invoked a weapon which he had received from his father, Indra. Thousands of glowing arrows, adorned with the feathers of a vulture, flew from his Gandiva bow. They fell upon Karna's chariot, covering him, Shalya, and his horses. Rolling his eyes in anger, Karna invoked the Bhargava weapon, which cut off all the missiles emanating from Arjuna's Gandiva. The power of the Bhargava Astra spread out on the battlefield, afflicting the Pandava forces. Thousands fell dead, their bodies hacked to pieces. And seeing Karna's prowess, the Kauravas cheered and waved their weapons. Infuriated, Bhimasena called out to his brother, "Falguna, how have you allowed this irreligious scoundrel to kill so many of our men right before our very eyes? Why, the gods themselves were not able to vanquish you before now. So how has Karna been able to show such power? O Sabyasachi, think deeply on all the ills meted out by this sinful man. Remember now Draupadi's suffering and the death of your own son Abhimanyu. Now, Do not be mild or timid with this wretch. Slay him at once by any means possible. And even Krishna himself also spoke urgently. O Parantapa, you appear like one confounded. How are your weapons being baffled by Karna? Display the fierce energy which has been displayed yuga after yuga when you slew Rakshasas and boon-proud Asura demons. Take my razor-edged Sudarshan Chakra and cut off Karna's head without delay. Thus, you will restore to Yudhishthir this earth, along with all of her towns, villages, and wealth, and you yourself will earn undying fame. Stirred to action, Arjuna gritted his teeth and glared back at Karna. Taking out a shining golden shaft, Vijay said, "Now, for the good of this world, and with your permission, Krishna, I will invoke the mighty Brahma weapon." "Yes, Arjuna, tatastu, so be it." And Arjuna then placed the arrow on his bow. Concentrating his mind, Arjuna invoked the Brahma Astra and shot the arrow with all of his strength. And as the shaft blazed into the sky, thousands of other arrows came into being, launching themselves from his Gandiva bow. Resembling ferocious snakes with bared fangs, they soared across the battlefield towards Karna. Thousands upon thousands of gold-winged shafts spread out from Vijay's chariot, tearing into the Kauravas. Darts, lances, and battle axes of frightening size and shape dropped down onto Duryodhana's troops. Karna replied with yet another celestial weapon, issuing innumerable arrows back at Arjuna. They came down upon Kiriti, hissing like a downpour of rain. Those shafts also flew out at the Pandava troops, killing them in large numbers. Arjuna lost all patience. He struck Karna on his chest with a group of 6 powerful steel arrows. Then he sent 12, then 20, then 50. And at the same time, Bibatsu slew 400 elephants with their riders and 1,000 horsemen and their horses. Then Arjuna slew 8,000 infantrymen. The Kauravas called out to Karna, "O hero, save us! Chak Pandu's son, Dhananjaya, is annihilating us." Exerting his utmost, Karna sent blood-sucking shafts in showers, completely covering Arjuna and simultaneously killing many Panchala and Pandava troops. Invisible beneath the assault, Arjuna whirled on the terrace of his chariot, striking down Karna's shafts and shooting back another volley of fiery arrows. And as Arjuna and Karna attacked and counterattacked, exchanging all kinds of celestial weapons, Yudhishthir returned to the battlefield. His wounds tended and healed by mantra and herbs, Yudhishthir appeared again in brilliant golden armor, like the full moon emerging from an eclipse. The Pandava forces cheered to see Yudhishthir as he stood by to witness the battle between Arjuna and Karna. Arjuna fought in a frenzy, sending immeasurable volumes of shafts. The Kauravas were unable to bear the force of his weapons, and they fled in fear. But Karna stood undaunted, resisting Arjuna's attack with supreme skill. Karna pressed back all the troops supporting Arjuna, and soon the two men faced each other alone. And from a distance, the other Pandavas and Kauravas watched with astonishment as every kind of celestial missile was released and countered. Sometimes it seemed Karna had the advantage, while at other times Arjuna appeared to gain the upper hand. From both sides the warriors cheered and blew their conch shells, while from the sky the celestials applauded both warriors and beat their drums.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Scene 7. Ashvasena.
And while that awful fight was raging, and the earth seemed to be oppressed by the weight of the weapons being fired, a Naga named Ashvasena came to the battlefield. That celestial snake, son of Takshaka, bore enmity against Arjuna for his having slain his mother and brother in the Kandava forest. Seeing his opportunity to gain revenge, Ashvasena assumed the shape of an arrow and entered Karna's quiver. And with his mind fixed on the destruction of Vijay, Ashvasena used his mystic power to inspire Karna with the thought of using the Naga Astra. Karna understood that he could not overpower Arjuna simply by a force of arms. It would take an inspired shot with a powerful celestial weapon. Karna then thought of the Naga Astra. If he could catch Arjuna off guard by cutting his bowstring and striking him at the same time with the cluster of shafts, Karna just might have time to kill Bibatsu with the snake weapon before he could recover. Following his plan, Karna fired shafts with blinding speed and temporarily stunned Arjuna, tearing apart his bowstring with a razor-headed arrow. Karna then took out a golden arrow from his quiver of celestial weapons. Why, it seemed to jump into his hand and almost placed itself on his bowstring. Karna took careful aim at Arjuna's neck and drew his bow to its full. Unaware that Ashvasena had entered the arrow by his yogic power, Karna shot it before Arjuna had a chance to restring his bow. Then Karna called out, "You are killed, O Partha!" And as the arrow was released, the celestials cried out in sorrow. The shaft sped towards Arjuna with a terrible sound, seeming to divide the sky, just as a woman parts her hair in the middle. But Krishna could see the weapon approaching, and leaning forward, Krishna pressed down the chariot with his foot. The horses were then thrown to the ground, and the chariot sank into the earth. The snake arrow soared over Arjuna's head and struck his crown, sending it spinning off of his head as if the sun fell from the heavens. The crown fell to the earth smoking and was shattered by the force of the Naga weapon, which was enhanced by Ashvasena's personal power. The crown's brilliant celestial gems lay scattered about the ground, resembling stars
shining in the evening sky.
Seeing that Krishna had saved Arjuna from certain death, the gods in the heaven cheered and showered Krishna with flowers. Arjuna, standing like a mountain bereft of its snowy summit, thanked and praised Krishna, who told Arjuna what had happened. Kiriti quickly bound his loose hair with a white cloth and restrung his Gandiva bow to attack Karna. Now thwarted in his efforts to slay the Pandava, Ashvasena returned to Karna and said, "O Karna, you did not know that it was I who had entered your arrow. Know me to be the enemy of Partha, for he killed my mother. Now shoot me again, and I will avenge her and achieve your desired end." Karna looked in surprise at the Naga, and with a shake of his head, Karna replied, "No, I will never seek victory depending upon another's strength, nor will I shoot the same arrow twice. I will slay Arjuna with my other weapons. Go now, wherever you please." So, Ashvasena turned back towards Arjuna. Launching himself into the air, Ashvasena again assumed the shape of an arrow. But this time, Arjuna was ready for Ashvasena. Kiriti swiftly fired 6 crescent-headed shafts, which cut Ashvasena to pieces, and the Naga fell to the ground like a number of burning firebrands.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya.
Maha-Bharata, second part, chapter 25, Arjuna encounters Karna. Part 8. Krishna reminds Karna of his past. Krishna then jumped to the ground and with his own hands lifted Arjuna's chariot out of the earth. Keshava quickly remounted and urged on the horses, circling Karna as Arjuna aimed deadly shafts at Karna's vital organs. Completely furious, Vijay relentlessly assailed his foe from all sides as Krishna expertly drove the chariot. Sabyasachi's arrows pierced Karna's armor and broke it to pieces. Kiriti struck off Karna's helmet and headdress, leaving the wounded Karna standing like a mountain, sending forth streams of red lava. Seeing his foe stupefied and inactive, Karna's bow falling from his grasp, Arjuna honored the codes of warfare and stopped his attack. But in surprise, Krishna told Arjuna, "Why, O Partha,
are you making such a mistake? The wise never spare their enemies, no matter how weak they are. Learned men gain great merit by destroying wicked foes, even when those foes are distressed. So you should lose no time now in killing Karna, for when he recovers, Karna will once again present to you a most difficult task. Responding to Krishna's urging, Arjuna fired arrows fitted with the heads of calf's teeth. They thudded into Karna's powerful frame. With blood running from his numerous wounds, Karna resembled a blossoming Ashoka tree. Quickly recovering his senses, Karna took up his bow and discharged volumes of shafts at both Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna countered Karna's arrows mid-flight and then continued to attack his unprotected enemy. In his plight, Karna thought once again of using the Bhargava weapon, inspired with the power of Lord Brahmaji. No one could resist such a mighty weapon, and it had already destroyed numberless Pandava troops. Karna thought it would be the only way he could hope to distract Arjuna and gain the space he needed to deal with his wounds and put on new armor. Karna began to chant sacred incantations to invoke the weapon, but he found he could not remember them. Repeatedly he tried to recite the mantras he thought he knew so well, but they would not come to his mind. Sadly, Karna recalled the curse of his teacher. When your life depends on your most powerful weapon, you will not be able to summon it. Unable to invoke the Bhargava Astra, Karna turned to repelling Arjuna's shafts with ordinary arrows. And as he stood releasing shafts by the hundreds, Karna saw a black shadowy figure appear near his chariot. Karna recognized it as Kala, time personified, who said, "The earth is devouring your chariot wheel." Karna looked down and saw that indeed his chariot was sinking into the earth. Despite Shalya's strenuous efforts, it could not be pulled out. Karna lamented, rebuking virtue. "Virtue, O virtue, it is said you always protect the virtuous, and I have always carefully observed my duties. So how is it that I am now being destroyed? Why are all my efforts in this battle thwarted?" And as Karna gave vent to his anguish, Arjuna attacked him even more vigorously. Cursing virtue again and again, Karna fought back desperately. Arjuna's arrows pierced Karna deeply, and he shook like a tall tree in a storm. Worked up to a frenzy, Karna released his arrows in a continuous stream. They flew off his bow like streaks of fire and struck down Arjuna's shafts. Some of them even penetrated Arjuna's defenses and pierced both him and Krishna. Seeing Karna still fighting furiously, even though disadvantaged and badly wounded, Krishna said, "O Dhananjay, discharge even more powerful weapons. See now, Karna remains bent on victory, rendering your arrows useless and striking us with all of his power." Arjuna recited mantras to invoke the Brahma weapon, but as he did so, Karna sent an arrow which cut apart Arjuna's bowstring. In a moment, Arjuna restrung his bow, but immediately Karna cut it again. Arjuna strung it for a second time, and again Karna cut it. This was repeated 12 more times Arjuna stringing his bow quickly and Karna cutting the string. Marveling at Arjuna's lightness of hand, Karna kept up his fierce assault. By the sheer force of his attack, Karna temporarily stunned his opponent. Taking the opportunity, Karna leaped from his chariot and seized hold of the sunken wheel. Karna heaved at it with all of his might. With his massive shoulders and heavily muscled arms, Karna resembled a shala tree with two huge trunks. Pulling with all of his power, Karna shook the very earth. It seemed to rise up with all of its lands, mountains, and seas, but still the wheel would not come out. Karna wept in frustration. Seeing Arjuna near him, Karna called, "O Partha, wait for a moment while I extract my chariot wheel. Do not cherish thoughts entertained only by cowards. Those who are brave and pious never aim their arrows at those who are without weapons. Oh, Jishnu, you are the bravest and most pious of all warriors. Now for a moment just excuse me, standing helpless as I am. Soon I will stand once again for battle. Now, remembering virtue and the codes of warfare, hold off your attack until then, Dhananjay." But hearing his agonized pleas, Krishna smiled and replied, "O Karna, fortunate indeed it is that you now remember virtue. Men in distress almost always censure providence, but yet forget their own evil deeds. Karna, where was your virtue when Draupadi was brought weeping into the Kuru assembly? Karna, where was your virtue when Yudhishthir was robbed of his kingdom, and when Yudhishthir asked for it to be returned after spending the promised 13 years in exile? Did your virtue suggest that the kingdom be returned? And was it virtue that conspired to set fire to the house of wax in Varanavata? Did virtue urge you to laughingly say to Draupadi, 'O lady, choose now another husband'? And was it that same virtue that ordered Dushashan to strip Draupadi naked? When you and 6 other brave heroes surrounded the boy Abhimanyu, did virtue enter your mind at that time?" Karna's head fell, and he made no reply. Frantically, Karna struggled to pull up the chariot wheel as Krishna continued to harass Karna. So, if it was indeed virtue acting on all these occasions, well then, do not waste your time summoning it now. You wish us to practice piety. But today, you will not escape with your life. And after vanquishing you and all their other enemies, the virtuous Pandavas will regain their kingdom. Karna could not respond. He trembled with anger. His face was covered with perspiration as he wrestled with the chariot wheel. Krishna moved the chariot away and then said, "Arjuna, strike down Karna at once with your celestial weapon." Reminded of Karna's many sins, Arjuna became furious. Heat seemed to emanate from his bodily pores. Vijay raised his Gandiva and invoked the Agneya Astra. Unable to lift the chariot wheel, Karna leaped back onto his chariot. Now, grasping his bow, Karna countered Arjuna's weapon with the Varuna Astra. In desperation, Karna continued fighting, firing his powerful arrows by the hundreds. Karna took up a huge steel arrow worked with gold and fitted with a long barbed point. And as he discharged it from his drawn bow, uttering mantras all the while, the four quarters were suddenly shrouded with darkness. Violent winds blew, and the celestials uttered cries of lamentation. The Pandavas were now gripped with apprehension, and so they prayed to Krishna. Karna's arrow flew off his bow like a thunderbolt. It struck Arjuna full on the chest, and Arjuna reeled. Pierced even through his impenetrable armor, Arjuna shook violently and dropped the Gandiva bow. Now, Karna again jumped down from his chariot and seized hold of the sunken wheel. He struggled furiously, but to no avail. As Karna roared in anger, Arjuna regained his senses and took out an Anjalika arrow. Placing it on his Gandiva bow, Arjuna invested it with the celestial power of Indra's Vajra weapon. Krishna now moved closer to Karna and said, "Arjuna, release this arrow at once and cut off the head of your enemy before he remounts his chariot." Thus, Arjuna drew back the Gandiva bow to his ear and took careful aim. All the warriors on the battlefield froze. The sky seemed to shake, and the rishis watching from the sky cried out, "All peace to the universe." As he aimed the arrow, Arjuna said, "If I have ever practiced penance, if I have ever respected my elders, and if I have ever listened to their wise counsel, then let this arrow kill Karna." Arjuna released the arrow, and it flew from his bowstring, shining like the sun globe. It lit up the battlefield as it streaked towards Karna. The terrific shaft struck Karna as he still grappled with his chariot wheel. Catching him on his broad and powerful neck, the arrow severed Karna's head and threw it to the ground. And as the handsome head fell to the earth, like the crimson setting sun going behind the western hills, Karna's body collapsed, gushing streams of blood. Then, before everyone's eyes, a bright light came out of Karna's body and rose upward, entering the disk of the sun. The Pandavas cheered, beat drums, and sounded trumpets. Filled with joy, Arjuna and Krishna blew their conchs. They were surrounded by warriors who praised them both and danced on the battlefield in happiness. They gazed in wonder at Karna's fallen body, which resembled an extinguished fire or a mountain struck down by the thunderbolt of heaven. Bereft of its hero, Shalya drove Karna's chariot away from the battlefield. And seeing that sorrowful sight, the Kauravas fell about in grief, their hopes all but dashed. They fled in fear, looking back repeatedly at Arjuna's blazing flag standard with Hanuman screaming. Duryodhana was now overwhelmed with grief. Tears flowed from his eyes, and he was sighing again and again. He and the other remaining Kuru chiefs went over to Karna and stood around him. The Pandavas also joined them to offer their last respects to the fallen hero. But as for Bhima, he roared like a thundercloud. He danced about, slapping his arms in joy. Leaping high and circling in the air, Bhima laughed and shouted out his battle cry. The Pandava troops embraced one another with tears in their eyes. Now the war was all but over, for Duryodhana's greatest hope had just now been shattered with the death of Karna.
Sri Nrsimha, Jaya Nrsimha, Jaya Jaya Nrsimha. Prahlada Isha, Jaya Padma, Mukha Padma Bringa. Namaste Narasimhaya, Prahlada Ahlada Dayane, Hiranya Kashipur Vaksha, Shilatankan Kalai, Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimho, Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsimha, Bahir Nrsimho, Hridaye Nrsimho, Nrsimham Adin Sharanam Prapadye. Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Nrsimha Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haraye Namaha, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopala Govinda
Madhusudanna. Hari Haraye Namaha. Hari Haraye Namaha.